there's only one news story at the moment, and that's Trump. Did you see it coming? What do you think?
I did see it coming for at least a couple of weeks before the election. I made several videos saying I didn't think it was going to be close. I thought Trump was going to win by a landslide, which he basically has done. The only people, as far as I'm concerned, who thought he was going to lose, or was so like the Aurora Stewarts of this world, who now look completely stupid. They, through ideology, nothing else, thought that Trump was going to lose because they willed it so much. They wanted Harris to win.
It was wishful thinking, wasn't it, on their behalf?
Definitely, Trump was never going to lose that election. I personally think it's fantastic news for the West. It's fantastic news for the free world. Bit of a beacon, if you will, to the UK. Unfortunately, we've gone the opposite direction by voting in a left-wing government. But most of Europe is going this way now. The Americans have had enough now, and it couldn't be better news for hopefully to start a trend now where Britain can finally get away from this, let's face it, left-wing duopoly of the Tories and the Labour Party, and maybe we can follow the Americans' example in a few years' time.
Absolutely. You said two things there that I want to follow up on. The first thing is you said this could be good for the world. What do you mean by that?
I think if you look, I mean, all these people like to say that Trump's a warmonger, Trump's this, he's a racist, he's KKK, all that absolute rubbish. He's the only US president in the last few decades not to start a single conflict. If anything, the only thing he did do was help to defeat ISIS. And if you look at all the other presidents, they've started a conflict somewhere and ended up bombing somebody. Trump got North and South Korea to sit around a table. That's no mean feat in itself. He managed to keep Xi in China in his box. He managed to keep Putin in his box. He sanctioned Putin more than any world leader in history has ever sanctioned Russia. And yet, Putin still didn't start a war. And he said he actually got on quite well with him. Because these people, like Xi and like Putin, only respect one thing, and that is strength. That is fighting fire with fire, essentially. And Trump can do that. But they look at someone like Biden, who was going senile anyway. You look at Harris, who just sits there cackling. You look at Starmer and even von der Leyen and all that. These people aren't going to stand up to China or Russia and put them in their place. But Trump will, because he's just unpredictable enough. I mean, the chances are, as we all know, he's probably not going to nuke somebody, is he? But he's just unpredictable enough to make them think twice about doing something stupid like invading Taiwan or possibly Putin invading Ukraine when Trump was in power, because he's just scared enough that he might actually do something that would be cataclysmic for Russia or China.
No, I completely agree. And that's because Trump is a masculine man. He has his boundaries. He draws lines in sands and he goes, no, you cross that, there'll be trouble. And the other leaders in the world know it to be true. And and that's not because he personally is a terrifying person, but it's because he's in charge of the biggest, most complex army in the world. So therefore, you don't know what he's going to do with that army. And at the moment, this might not be forever, but at the moment, it's still the most powerful army in the world. Even China is afraid because they're not ready yet to take on the US.
No, definitely not. I mean, if you remember back to last time he was in the White House and he sat down with Kim Jong Un first, and the story has it that Kim Jong Un actually threatened Trump and said, "I've got missiles that can reach America, and I will do this, I will do that." And Trump actually turned around to him allegedly and said, "You might have missiles," he said, "but the difference is mine work, and I will use them on you if I have to." And after that, lo and behold, he sat around a table with South Korea. I mean, now tensions are rising again. There, you've seen recently tensions on the border between the demilitarized zone between the two countries. But that would never have happened if Trump had stayed in office. And I am absolutely adamant that Putin would not have gone into Ukraine had Trump have been in office. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Well, I don't think Putin would have gone into Ukraine if Biden hadn't have pulled out of Afghanistan and the shambles that caused. America looked like weak cowards running away. They left billions of pounds worth of resources there. Afghanistan, I think, apart from America, has the most Black Hawk helicopters in the world. They can't fly them, by the way, but they have the second most in the world.
The Taliban became, I think it was the seventh best armed force in the entire world just by the virtue of America leaving all that stuff behind. And on a more somber note, let's not forget that during that chaotic withdrawal, which was unbelievable. I mean, remember, Biden didn't even tell his allies, didn't even tell us that he was about to do this. He just decided to do it. 13 US soldiers were killed on those couple of days trying to withdraw. It turned it from an organized withdrawal, which Trump was going to do anyway. He announced that. It went from that to the last helicopter out of Saigon. That quickly how things turned, and the Taliban were emboldened, of course, to go after the American troops and say they even gave them an ultimatum, saying get out or we're going to attack you in 48 hours or something. You're right. It looked like a completely chaotic retreat when it should have just been an organized withdrawal.
Every army in the history of the world has always been very careful not to leave their weapons, whether it be bow and arrows or cannons, to leave them behind for the enemy to take. That's why every cannon we used to have came with a spike. And when you knew you were being overrun, when you were having to evacuate and leave your cannons behind, you put the spike in the hole where the gunpowder goes and you snapped it off so they could never get that out and use that cannon. Every ship has a plug. So when your Royal Navy ship gets overrun by the Germans in World War II, the captain would order the plug being pulled out so you'd sink your own ship rather than give it to the enemy. And what the Americans failed to do was that 101 of what you do when you're being overrun. They should have blown up all those ammunition dumps, all those helicopters, all the ammunition, all the rifles, should have blown them all up, but they were too busy running away. It was a shambles.